Welcome back to the Wandering Star Farmhouse. Tonight I want to give you a tour of my garden, my spring garden, what we have planted so far. It's only a fraction of what it's going to be later on in the season. We finally passed our last frost date so we can start to plant everything else that we've been waiting for. But today I'm going to show you just what we have so far, and it's starting here with some brassicas. On this side I have broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And on this side, I have some green cabbage. These have all been growing for a month or two at this point, but then I went out and grabbed some red cabbage recently, so that's why these ones are a little bit behind the others. Now, I do keep all my brassicas covered with insect netting to protect them from cabbage moths, but I just uncovered them for the video. And the same with these next two. I have these little nettings that I keep over them most of the time, but I've just pushed them back for the video. So on this one, I have just barely planted some carrots to either side. I did a mix of carrots and then just the classic Nant variety. And then down the center, I have some radishes growing. So the radishes grow more quickly, and I will pull those out and harvest those as they get finished, and then there'll be more space available for the carrots as they start to get bigger. On this side, I have some of my winter and spring greens. The spinach in this bed actually overwintered. I planted it in the fall, and these are the ones that overwintered, and so they took off growing, and they're big enough we've been eating from them, along with my one kale plant on the other side of the garden that overwintered. And so now I've planted some more spring greens in with them as well. First I have some collard greens, and then some bok choy, some bib lettuce, some red Russian kale. Then in this kind of in-between area, I thought I would seed some turnips. And you know, turnip seeds are really small and you can't really see where they're going. And my seeds are kind of old, and so I just kind of broadcast a bunch of seeds, and I maybe could have sown a couple less turnip seeds than I did. But we can thin these out and use the turnip greens. And meanwhile, hopefully we'll get a lot of turnips out of there as well. Now on this side, you can see my garlic growing. This garlic I planted last fall. I have hardneck and softneck varieties growing. And it's to the time in the year I need to give them a real good fertilization right now in May. And then I will start to pull these probably the first or second week of July. Along this hog panel, I have planted peas, sienna peas, and they're supposed to be like an edible pea, an edible potted pea. And I purchased them from the local garden store, but they didn't. I tried to plant some in the fall and they never grew very large for me before it frosted, and I didn't know if my timing was just off. But so far, I'm worried that they're not growing as fast as I want them to this spring either. And if that's the case, I might give up on this variety. But we'll see. Our weather's just starting to warm up, so they may be just about to really shoot off and take up now. And they're just getting tall enough where they're about to grab onto the cattle panel. To the inside of the peas, I seeded some beets, and those have started to come up now, and so hopefully we'll get a good beet harvest from that as well. Okay, now we're gonna move over to the next couple rows. At the end of this row, I have some trellises set up, and I'm trying to grow sweet peas at the bottom, the flower sweet peas, not edible sweet peas. But it's one of the reasons I think the other peas might just be waiting to take off. Like these peas haven't taken off either. So it maybe just hasn't been the right weather. So I'm really hoping these sweet peas will grow up and we'll be able to enjoy some flowers on here. But if not, I'll have to get some nasturtium or pole beans on here. And then right next to here, I have that black cherry that I talked about, and I have that in the water wall, so that I've had that out for a couple weeks. So it should really take off as the weather warms up as well. Along these two rows, I have planted onions. And I actually have 3 rows of onions. I bought 3 bundles of onion plants. And this variety along this row is Patterson, which is a yellow storage onion. And this variety here is Walla Walla Sweets. So that's a sweet onion that we'll use for fresh eating and fresh salsas and things in the summertime. And I may experiment with freezing them as well and saving them for later. But at one point in our marriage, my husband and I actually, when we had 4 kids, we moved there for a summer while we were waiting to get Jeremy's first real job out of college. So Walla Walla has a special place in our heart. So we're excited to grow those this year. And then the other day I was at the garden center and actually found plants that were for some red were some red onions, and I thought, sure, let's get the red onions too. So I have 3 rows of onions. They all end about here. 1, 2, 3. And then on this row, the next thing I put in here was pepper plants. And I was trying to be strategic with my pepper plants because I don't want my baby to get into the hot peppers. So what I did is I started with the snacking peppers here. I sowed snacking peppers, and then some sweet banana peppers, and then some red bell peppers. And then next I have the pepper plants that I started, and these ones are the orange sun. So my orange sun peppers were obviously started later than these starts that I picked up, but I transplanted them last week and they're doing really well. So hopefully they're gonna take off well now that they're in the ground as well. And so then in between my sweet peppers and my snacking peppers, I decided to make a break. So this is where I planted the celery plants that I was so excited to get. So those are right here, and I put in a few Swiss chard seeds to either side. Hopefully those will sprout as well. And so then behind here is where I have my jalapeno and my red chili peppers. So those are right here. And then here on the end, after I had been growing those ones for a while, I saw a packet of snow peas, and I decided to go ahead and pick that up as well. So these 2 trellises have snow peas in them, and those are doing really well and about to start climbing up these cages as well. So that is everything that I have planted in the main garden right now. I have 2 halves and then 1, 2, 3, 4 more full rows. These are 48-foot rows. And I have a couple of trellises. I set up a cattle panel trellis, and I'm trying to decide if I want to grow cucumbers or butternut squash over the trellis, or if maybe I just want to set up a trellis for each of those things. So I have a handful of flowers over where I had my flower row last year that have survived. We had a yarrow, and then here's some kind of a dianthus. I don't remember exactly what variety this is, but this came back also. Then here is a little something I transplanted from my old house to here, and I think it's an oregano, so I'll move this over to my greenhouse to be in the herb garden. But then here's a little bell of Ireland that self-seeded from last year, so that's exciting. And here's some little violas, and then on the end is another nice big yarrow, and these will bloom later in the summer. So the other thing, we had our pigs till up a couple more areas for us. So the first one I'll show you is potatoes. We have 4 rows of potatoes right here, and we bought some more seed potatoes that we need to get in real quick here, but we'll probably get a couple more rows of potatoes. And these sat in the ground for weeks without coming up, and I was pretty sure that I had killed them all. So I'm really happy to see that they finally sprouted. My plan is to put most of my tomatoes in a bed of their own, not in the main garden, but I will have a few cherry tomatoes in the main garden. I've been working on getting a little bit of planting area around the greenhouse. I want to get my herbs around here, but I got my chives transplanted here, and then I planted the horseradish that I ordered here as well. My plan is to get some more herbs and flowers here right around the greenhouse. Thanks for joining me on this garden tour today. Please click subscribe and come back again soon, and I will give a tour of my fruit tree orchard and my soft fruits orchard.